Hello friends, in this episode, we will talk about an app that stole $130 billion from farmers. This is a story of greed, deception and betrayal. But before we begin, subscribe for more amazing videos like this. On July 31, 2016, a new game called Chick Bank was launched in the Turkish App Store. At first glance, it looked like any other simple mobile game. Players could buy and sell chicks and collect coins based on how many chicks they had. But this game was different. It wasn't just a game, it was a way to make money, and many people fell for it. The game allowed players to buy virtual livestock, which were actually tied to real farms and agricultural products. They could invest their money in virtual farms and receive a percentage of the profits from the sale of the actual livestock. For example, if a player invested $100 into a virtual chicken farm in the game, they would own 100 virtual chickens. In the real world, the farm would have 100 real chickens, and the player would receive a percentage of the money earned from selling the eggs laid by those chickens. The creators of the game claimed that it was a fun and easy way to make money, and many people were intrigued. They downloaded the app and started playing, and to their surprise, they started making money. In the beginning, the game was profitable and people were happy, but as time went on, the payouts became less and less. Still, people kept playing because they were already in too deep. They had invested too much money and they didn't want to lose it. But what they didn't know was that the game was a scam. The creator of Chick Bank was a young man named Mustafa, who seemed like an ordinary guy with a passion for gaming. He had created the game with his friends and they had launched it in the Turkish App Store. But behind the scenes, Mustafa was a mastermind scammer. He had tricked over 100,000 people into investing their money in the game, and he had disappeared with more than $80 million. It all started when Mustafa was just a teenager. He was obsessed with online gaming, and he spent all his time playing. He was good at it, too. He was one of the best players in the country, but he wanted more. He didn't want to just play games. He wanted to make money from them. So he started looking for ways to do it. He tried everything from streaming to creating his own content, but nothing worked. Then he had a brainwave. He would create his own game and monetize it. He spent months developing the game, and when he was finished, he launched it in the Turkish App Store. He called it Chick Bank, and to his surprise, it was a hit. People loved it. They played it, and they spent money on it, and Mustafa made his first $1 million, but he wasn't satisfied. He wanted more. He wanted to make millions, so he came up with a new idea. He would create a game that wasn't just a game. It was a way to make money. And that's how Chick Bank was born. The game was a hybrid between a video game and a crowdfunding platform. It was marketed as a way to support Turkey's struggling agricultural sector. Players could invest their money in local farms and receive a percentage of the profits from the sale of the livestock. It was a brilliant idea, and Mustafa was a genius. He knew how to market it perfectly. He created a social media campaign and he started promoting it to his followers. He promised them that they could make a lot of money and they believed him. They invested their money and the game took off. Within days, it was the most popular app in the country. People were obsessed with it. They spent hours playing it and they made real money. But Mustafa was worried. He knew that the game wasn't sustainable. The money was running out and he needed to come up with a new plan. So he did what he did best. He created another game. This time it was a racing game. But it wasn't just a racing game. It was a way to make money. Players could invest their money in virtual cars and receive a percentage of the prize money from the races. It was the same concept as Chick Bank, but with cars instead of livestock, and it worked. People loved it. They played it, and they spent money on it. And Mustafa made even more money. But it wasn't enough. He still wasn't satisfied. He wanted more. He wanted to make billions. So he came up with his biggest idea yet. He would create a game that would change the world. A game that would allow anyone to invest in anything. He called it Real World. It was a game that allowed players to invest their money in anything they wanted. They could invest in stocks, bonds, real estate, anything, and they would receive a percentage of the profits from the real-world equivalent of whatever they had invested in. It was a brilliant idea, and Mustafa was a genius. He knew how to market it perfectly. He promoted it to his followers and promised them that they could make a fortune, and they believed him. They invested their money, and the game took off. People were obsessed with it. They played it, and they made real money. But Mustafa was worried. He knew that the game wasn't sustainable. The money was running out, and he needed to come up with a new plan. But this time, he didn't have anyone to turn to. He was on his own, so he did what he did best. He created another game. This time it was a role-playing game. But it wasn't just a role-playing game. It was a way to make money. Players could invest their money in virtual businesses and receive a percentage of the profits from the sale of goods and services. It was the same concept as Chickbank, but with businesses instead of livestock. But this time people weren't buying it. They were skeptical. They didn't trust the game, and Mustafa was desperate. He knew that he had taken things too far. He had created too many games, and the money was running out. He needed to come up with a new plan and fast, but he didn't know what to do. He was out of ideas. And that's when it happened. His worst nightmare. The police raided his house and arrested him. They had been investigating him for months, and they finally had enough evidence to charge him. They took him to court, and he was convicted of fraud and money laundering. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and all his money was confiscated. It was divided among the investors, but it wasn't enough. Many people lost their entire life savings. Chickbank was a Ponzi scheme. Mustafa had used the money from new investors to pay the profits to old investors. When the game first launched, there was real money to be made. Mustafa had funded the initial game with his own money, but as the game grew, so did the payouts, and eventually Mustafa couldn't keep up. He was forced to borrow money, and then he started stealing from his investors. But how did he get away with it for so long? Well, it's because he was smart. He was charismatic, and he knew how to manipulate people. He was able to convince thousands of people to invest their money in his game, and he made them believe that they were making real money. But in reality, he was just taking their money and giving it to the people who had joined the game earlier. The reason why the game was able to continue for so long was because of the latecomers. They were the ones who were funding the payouts to the early investors. But when the game eventually collapsed, they were the ones who lost everything. That's what happened to Mustafa. He was able to get away with his scam for so long because he had a steady stream of new investors. But when the game eventually collapsed, he was the one who got caught. Chickbank is a cautionary tale. It's a reminder that not all that glitters is gold. Just because something seems too good to be true doesn't mean it is true. And it's important to be skeptical of anything that promises to make you money with little or no effort on your part. So what can we learn from this story? First, we need to be aware of the red flags. When something seems too good to be true, it probably is. We need to be skeptical of anything that promises to make us money with little or no effort on our part. Second, we need to do our research. If something sounds suspicious, we need to look into it before investing any money. We need to check the person or company's reputation and make sure that they are legitimate. Third, we need to be cautious of online investment scams. There are many scams targeting people who want to make money online. We need to be aware of the warning signs and take steps to protect ourselves. Overall, Chickbank is a story of greed, deception, and betrayal. It's a reminder that we need to be aware of the red flags and take steps to protect ourselves from those who want to take advantage of us. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this.